Thank you, everybody. My name is Victoria Chapman, and El Nido IBC Project is my art space, and we offer exhibitions, experimental theater, and sound, and things like that, film. And so it was a great pleasure that I met Esther through Stevie Kinchlow, who isn't here at the moment, but she was doing an artist residency, and she found Esther's book in a bookshop, I'm not sure which one, and she immediately told me about it, and just kept saying what amazing things, because she's a writer as well, and an actress, and so eventually Esther came to the space for an exhibition, and we had a great meeting, and I thought, you know, it'd be great to just do like a book launch or a book signing or a book something with Esther, and she agreed, and so I just wanted to say thank you very much for everybody for your support and your kindness to come today and entertain this afternoon with Esther. And we're going to do a little bit of a book reading a little bit, and it's really just a loose conversation with friends about her book, and I'm a writer as well, so I have a lot of questions for her, but honestly it's a group talk. Please interject, don't be shy, and I think it's fun when a lot of people have different questions and we kind of share the insight and things like that. And at the end, Esther wants to do an after party at her home, so everybody's invited, and we have the address if you don't know it, to join her afterwards. So, thank you, Esther.
Okay.
So I think I'm going to sit here, and I think my first question for you is, how did this all begin? What brought you to create this book? I think that's just the first thing straight out the gate.
Okay. Yeah. Where to begin? I mean, I think like if I go all the way to the beginning, my mom was a writer. Like she wrote. Yeah, she was a writer journalist. So writing was something that was around. And I always talked to my mom a lot about everything. Like they used to say, "Hello."
Hi. Come on in.
Come on in. I sit here. Yeah.
There's one. Yes.
Okay.
Let's there. Oh yeah, there's a chair there. Yeah, because for Sarah and for Bill. Okay. So okay, don't get me talking because I won't stop.
So your mother was a writer and she encouraged you.
Well, no, she didn't. No, it was just like... I don't know, it was just like, that was the inspiration around, like, I don't know, actually. But that, yeah, she did write. But anyway, so, but, like, my sister used to say, Esther lives twice. Once when she lives it, and then the next time when she tells about it. So you guys are not going to be able to leave in a while. So basically that's really where it started. But then, I went, so I was, like this ideal, I loved little books anyway too. And then what do you write in those books? And like, poetry, of course. I had no clue about poetry, and I wrote really stupid stuff. But then, like when I was like a young adult or older teenager, but then I went to New York, which is where the book begins, and I started writing journal, and I think I write the way I write because I kind of, you know, I cry a lot too, because I kind of write to my mom or something, like, sorry,
No,
forget it all.
Okay.
So yeah, so I think that's a big element, because you were talking about, oh, you know, you write in the way that you speak.
Yeah,
That's-
yeah, I felt
That's
like
why I
the way you
think, because I
speak,
just,
yeah.
you know, write down like what I would tell my mom,
Wow.
kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, it begins in 1984 in New York, and you're learning something, I'm not sure, in theater, and then you go on to being involved in film and being in scenes and traveling back and forth and meeting these different characters, Julian and Alec and just so much more, and Nina and et cetera, et cetera. But I felt like the book, I said to you earlier, the book, I felt like, even though there's all these characters in it, it's still very much about you and your thoughts, and you as a person, and ES is I am, right, in Latin. And
You are.
You are. And I just felt like it's written so poetically, abstract, dreamy, and so much, it's so authentic in your voice, you know, just sitting down and talking to you, it's kind of like how you explore conversation. And I felt like, what are the things that how do you select what you're going to write about and put in this book? I mean, was it a full journal and then you separated, oh, I'm going to put this in the book, or how did you go about that?
Yeah, so I off and on I've always written in journals, so there are like all these journals, like this is basically only like maybe 4 or 5 or something. But of course after I started writing like more, so there's more like junk in there and so on. But so how I chose is, you know, when it kind of transported me back, or when I really, oh yeah, that was so beautiful, you know, when I really feel like, oh, I love, you know, this, or that was so beautiful, or oh, that thought really, you know, interests me, or, you know, or that's like really essential. Mm-hmm. But it was really, I mean, it took me, I think, before I was done, it took me 10 years, that whole selection process. Mm-hmm. So yeah, because, you know, sometimes it's too much and it's ugly, you know, and it's too much. And then of course there are big gaps. So how do I, you know, sort of sew it together? Mm-hmm. Hi, Bill.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
So now I think now everyone's here.
Okay. Hello.
There's a seat here.
It's okay. I'll stay here. It's okay. Thank you.
So yeah,
And for
I must say though, that's Pam. Sorry, I'm gonna cry again. She's been like through the whole process with me, like so she would give me feedback like from day one for 10 years, and you know, kind of give me direction. Yeah, so she's,
and it was written in Dutch, right?
yeah.
And then translated to English.
Yes, yeah. So, of course, you know, like it was after I translated and did like a pre-selection, and this and that. And but you know, like in terms of also like the gaps, like you know, like how I worked with the gaps, and like because I did definitely like together we just started talking about her, like not me anymore when we talked about the book. Like, oh, like as if it's like a character in you know, a novel or something in a story. So yeah, we would you know, talk about, yeah, like we would definitely talk about like a storyline and like how it evolved and developed, and you know, and you know, if I needed to add stuff, and the way I added stuff is like you were talking before, like, oh, you remember stuff, you know.
Yeah, I think one of the things, I mean, I've been talking to Esther a lot, and please, I know we're kind of talking back and forth, but I really want to open it up to her friends and people too. I was saying that, like, we all have our own narratives and we all have our own stories and rites of passage of, getting through life. And I think it's just so fascinating the way Esther has written this all out. And I said to her, so how did you know, like, what memory and what to put in and what not? But you're saying that you and Pam had this sort of this narrative, this thing that you were, this thread that carried it through. How many people have read the book? Yeah. That's great. So, I think it's just like there's so many options, in reading it, and each page is consistent. It's a consistent. Even though I felt the characters changed and the places changed, it's still consistently about you and figuring out what you're doing and why you're doing it and how you fit in.
Yeah.
It's constantly like in the present.
Yeah.
And that's so hard to stay in that and continue through a story. But I also felt like I was part of it.
Yeah.
The heartfelt, and I think what you just said about, your family, your mom, speaking to her, I felt that I was a part of the story. I mean,
Yeah.
you can't help but not. It's just, it was really beautiful.
Yeah, like somehow you included the reader in a way that we're in the room with you. Like you don't want to put it down. Maybe you can read a passage for those that haven't read it.
I did, pick passages, and I did kind of pick an order so that that it would somehow make a little sense, and I will, because it's from 84 to 84 to 89, and so mostly I will say the year. I will make sure to say the year. If it's still the same year, I won't say the year. So, okay. Okay, does somebody else want to do this? No.
We want you to do it.
Okay, so I'm near the top of the theater in the dark. Next to me is a large spotlight. I have my thoughts here. I have a good view here. The spectacle is far away in the depths. I shine light on it. New York Barbizon Hotel, Monday, June 24, 1984, 6:45 a.m. The room is small. There's a single bed along the wall. Near the window, there is a table and a chair. Hey, wow! There's a typo! There's no A before table. Wow, it rained when I arrived here yesterday. The streets were wet and the clouds were hanging low above the buildings. I unpacked my suitcase and watched a snowy film on TV. I slept well. I dreamt of togetherness and people and progress, literal progress, going somewhere, crossing wild terrain with many people, a group like a caravan. Dreams follow you everywhere, even when you are far away. I woke up to honking. I looked out the window for a while and ordered breakfast. I sit at the little table and think of yesterday when the plane took off and I looked down at Holland from the air. It was like I was looking down at my own life, as if I had ascended from life. I felt myself separate from everything. That is what is nice about ascending. It provides an overview. We are immured. Our being is locked up. It is imprisoned by what is. Flying is like flying away from that state. Flying is like flying away from your life. Everything seems possible, especially when you are alone. Then there's nothing that binds you.
So let's talk a little bit about that. That's so beautiful.
I'm just going to get a napkin because my nose is...
Oh, there's one right there.
Okay.
You can't leave. I saw what you were doing.
Yeah, when I look down, my nose starts running.
Just like what you wrote, it's so it's like a painting in a way, you know? It's so visual and like there's so much space to enter into those passages, those sentences, to kind of feel through the sentences. Does anybody else have a comment about what you just read?
It is the same. I mean, you can't help but I've experienced those feelings. You know, when can we not be connected to so much and you just have an open space? And I think,
Right.
we're
Cool.
I mean, it's very seldom, you know,
Yeah.
when you think about it, that you actually take that opportunity to
Right.
enjoy that.
Like, you know, this is about Esther, but I kept telling her, this is all about you, but it brings up so many memories when I was like a young girl and I would save all my money to travel and get a, airplane ticket to go travel somewhere in Europe or wherever. And I was looking to find something within myself. And I would get there and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna find it, like I'm gonna find it. I was like, what am I searching for? And every day I'm just on the pavement looking, or in the park, and trying to find this connection. And of course it's inside. For me it was inside. It was inside all along. But as a young individual, 19, 20-year-old, 18-year-old, you're striving for this connection. And I wrote about being disconnected and finding connection. And so for you, I guess a question would be, what's the most important thing about this book for you?
Yeah, I mean, writing about disconnection is also a connection. I mean, just, like, that's definitely connecting.
Writing what?
Writing about this, because you said you wrote about disconnected.
Yeah.
And I say that's connecting too. That is
Yeah.
connecting, really.
Yeah.
That is really the truest connection. And you said, I mean, for me, like, why I wrote is, of course, for that reason, to just, like, how do you say, I can't think of the word. Yeah, release. And why I wanted to write a book about it is because I find life beautiful, and I find all these experiences so beautiful, and this and that. And what it was hard for me because, this is all about me. But I kept on telling myself, it is really not about me. It's not that I want to, write about me, not at all. I mean, and my sense is that it's about all of us.
Yeah.
It's about
sure.
life. I mean, like, and maybe I wrote it in that thing, that little sheet, like, it's like, okay, maybe an artist, like, paints, portrait or landscape, and I paint with words the inner landscape, and I can't paint your inner landscape, and I paint mine, and because I think that is beautiful. Just the being, existence is beautiful, and that's what I wanted to write about.
Yeah, I want, it'd be great to read some more, but I also just say that, I mean, you wrote as much about your interiors or your landscape just as much as you wrote about your feelings. Like, there's a chair, there's a bed, there's a window, there's a garden, there's a street, there's rain. I mean, you're really like, you are very, really, I don't even know what to say, but you're very aggressive about describing your environment.
Right.
And without putting importance on these objects. And I think for some of us who are visual artists.
Yeah, I just want to say for everyone, if people need to refill their meters.
Yeah.
Like,
Fill their meters. I found that was quite fascinating.
Oh, by the way, we might need to refill our meters too.
Okay.
When do you have to refill yours?
No.
Okay, all right. So when because you were here before me.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, sorry to interrupt.
No, it's okay. So I'll maybe read another line and these lines Esther said to me, like, what should I read? And I just said, just read what you like, because
Yeah.
it's all consistent. Like, we can learn about things about you again by what you read.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so I picked some, and when you guys are bored, let me know, then I'll stop.
That's what page?
Oh, yeah, page 20. And 11:30, if anybody else wants to read along, there's a stack of books over there. 11:30 p.m. I found a new spot in the park, near a small lake with boats and a cafe where they sell espresso. I made a friend there, a man on roller skates. He had a little dog and offered me half of his peach. I had dinner with him and his wife tonight at their house. I went to the park late in the afternoon. First, I laid down on a small lawn. I know it doesn't say laid. It says laid. Okay. The sun warmed my face. My face felt like a melting mask. There was also a voluptuous lady in a bikini who was knitting, and a couple in an embrace on a blanket. A little while later, I continued my walk and got to the small lake. There was a holiday atmosphere. Children were catching crabs with small nets, and people were riding bicycles and walking their dogs. An older Irish setter stood in the lake watching the fish. Every now and then he followed one. He stood there for a long time. His owner told me that sometimes he stands there watching the fish for over an hour and a half. While I was talking to the man on the roller skates, a bored boy came riding up to the lake on his chopper bike and had found my shoes that I had left near the water. He was about to throw one into the lake, so I yelled at him, but my shoe already flew through the air, and I had to wade through the water to get it. After talking to other passers-by, including a woman with a child on a leash, the man on the roller skates asked me if I wanted to come over to his house and have tea with him and his wife. His house, a studio that even had a garden, was close to the park. His name is Langston and his wife's name is Lola. He's an inventor. He has a curious-looking camper with plexiglass panels that fold up when he drives. He says it improves his gas mileage. They invited me to stay for dinner. Lola made tagliatelle with oil, olive oil, basil, parsley, and lots of garlic. In a dense cloud of garlic, I walked back to the hotel. It is late. I'm in bed. There are still vague city noises outside. Sleep comes to get me. That's it for this one.
Is there any specific reason why you picked this one?
Maybe because Pam liked it.
Specifically this one.
I think I liked it because it's, this young woman wandering through a foreign city and not seeming to know anyone, and all of the little things that happen on that journey, and then meeting somebody, and just all of the little details. I just liked it. I just thought it was like an adventure, Here she is on this adventure across the ocean, flying, right? And then she ends up in this the city, and there's a lake, and a kid throws her shoes in the lake.
Yes. And then like before that, you bought the shoes that were too small.
Yeah, those were the shoes.
Yeah, you got them wet and you tried to stretch them out, and they were too tight, and
I actually yelled stupid, hey stupid, I yelled at the little boy, and the inventor thought that was super funny that I yelled stupid somehow.
But like for me, because I was at that period, I was, I guess, 18 or 19 years old. And I thought, that's what people did. Like, they did do things like that. Do people do that now? Are they that, like, willing to be friendly. I'm not so sure, I don't know. But that was the beauty of that area.
Like the young generation,
Yeah.
like, and especially the girls, because, you know, I mean, the guys of course too, but, you know, like when you go to a place by yourself, you just, you can talk? Do people talk to each other? Can you have this experience now? Look at the phones.
It really depends, I think, the space you're in. But, I mean, not a lot of people talk to each other when you don't know each other. Not often, no. People are always on their phones.
Yeah.
And you kind of mind your own business, and I think also as a woman, like, if a guy would want to approach me, then it would be like a thing, because there, you know, it can be a thing, or usually it is a thing, so then maybe there's also like a wall up there, or, yeah, I don't know. But I think there are still, I think spaces do exist where that happens, but.
Yeah, I find, sorry, I'm going to try and be
Yeah, please.
But, well, first of all, I've known Esther my whole life, so I get emotional just hearing her talk. But
Literally her whole life.
yeah. But I think describing like mundane experiences, that's something that especially now my generation is trying to get back to. And so I feel like I do find myself going places and actively not being on my phone and actively trying to see the best in an encounter instead of be suspicious of an encounter, because I think as time has moved on, you start to gain these bricks to build up this wall to protect yourself, and actually you'll find a lot more kindness and interesting people that
Yeah.
are okay with something that you might not normally be okay with.
Yeah, in retrospect, you know, because, you know, I had children, you know, like, and, you know, like, they're growing up, and I think about this time, and, you know, I would go to the park a lot, and one time I met a guy, and, you know, we were like, you know, connecting, and it was nice, and he was a photographer, and I was an actress, and so he's like, oh, I'll take your pictures, and we ended up, I don't know if anybody knows New York and Central Park, this sort of place where there are rocks.
Yeah.
And it's pretty like isolated. We ended up there taking pictures, you know, nobody around. I didn't know this guy. And like when my kids were that age, I was like, shit. I mean, I would have died if my kids would have done that.
Yeah.
But I guess you also sort of you go on intuition.
Yeah.
I mean, I really trust that. Like, when I think back, I'm like, I'm sure I had a good feeling about this person. But like, I wouldn't, if my kids would have done that, I would have been crazy.
Yeah.
I think as a mother and having children, I always thought I had great intuition. But I think I was just lucky.
Yeah,
I really do think that. I got back and I'm like, okay, things worked out, but I think I was just lucky.
When I think about this person in the park, which like I would never recommend my kids doing that, even
No,
not.
of course not, but that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, but I still feel that I still
And
trust
you.
my intuition that
Yeah.
this was an okay guy. But I wouldn't tell my kids.
I mean,
this.
I don't know if I had good, you know, I always believed that, but after I had children, I was like, gee, maybe I was just lucky.
Yeah.
Because you get so scared for your kids.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Like the world seems so much more dangerous and once you have children. But I have a question too. Did you have a theme in mind? I haven't read your book, so did you have a theme in mind when you were putting it together? Did a theme develop? Was there any like revelations you had? If, you know,
Yeah, I mean, it's just
looking at
I
it,
guess a
like-
combination of like, I mean, how I my real struggles in life. Like, I don't think, you know,
is there a recurring theme?
yeah, I mean, there is a theme, kind of like how I begin it, like I'm, you know, on the outside, like, and I'm shining light on it, like, I'm not part of the whole thing. And I'm not sure, because some passages are more heavy, and I'm not sure if I picked any of them that actually shine light on that, like this feeling of, you know, not knowing how to be part of it, part of life. at all. Like, and that is definitely my theme. You know,
So
that's.
don't you think maybe you just have more of an objective perception of stuff than most people?
Yeah, it was very much true to me, and very often, I felt like I don't want to read or to be influenced. I never took a writing class because I didn't want to be influenced. I wanted to really not, interfere with that connection of that voice. Like I wanted that voice to stay pure. Like no writing class. Like I took one, I went all the way to the south of France, and I left like the first day. And I went and did the retreat or something because, it was like messing with, that connection.
But you share like you went to New York for a class, and so she explores like her feeling of being in this class, and is she going to make it 6 weeks through this class, and going back to her hotel room, and I mean you even are detailed about like what you ate from Friday to Monday, and it wasn't very much, and what did you sleep, did you not sleep? But also the people that she met along the way as like a person who is new to New York City, coming from Amsterdam or Holland, and the people that like she did feel like a connection to, like people in her class that really didn't talk to her, or they did talk to her eventually at a cafe and they saw her. But I think it's interesting to follow along the story because how these people come in and out, and who are the people that she attaches herself to, and what are the feelings she had for those people to begin with, and how that, and I looked at, and how that sort of plays out in her life. And I thought about that with myself when you're young and you're vulnerable, and you're in this world, and it's like, I always felt, again, it's not about me, but I always felt like this feather, and I'm just floating along. And where is my life going to take me? What's going to happen? Who am I going to end up being with? Where am I going to live? And so that's sort of the book too. And you're just kind of like, it's not, as Esther said, she didn't write it in a way that's very matter of fact. It just sort of unfolds.
I'm sorry, what is the time period?
Time period, it's from
1984
to 89, and it's between 22 and 20.
Oh.
Who's good at math? 20 something, 6, 7, I don't know, something like that.
But I think even though it is a story about an age, a time frame, it's very much any time frame.
Yeah.
You can walk into it and be comfortable in any time frame. I don't think it's.
I was really even asking, I mean, I know it's the 80s, but the length of time, like how many years were you looking at?
This is about 5 years.
Okay.
So she goes from like month to month.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then there are gaps. Like New York, there are more entries, and then 1986, there are like maybe 7 entries, so it differs. But like then I did make sure that you kind of know how you got from one place to the other.
But another thing, I don't want to dominate this, so I really want people to step in and talk, but another thing is like how I think we can all identify with this, is how we fit in relationships. And like, do we feel accepted? Do we want to leave? Do we want to stay? Do we want to feel alienated? All those things, and Esther, she feels that way all the way through it with Julian to begin with, right?
Yeah, sorry, I thought maybe I can read that little piece you talked about.
Yeah, because you're like, do I want to stay with him? I need my independence. Well, but if I'm with him, then, obviously, because he's in film, you could get apart. That's what I think about. But maybe not. Maybe you were, genuinely wanted to spend time with him, or he was a friend, or,
I mean, that actually, there's a very important part about Julian. That's here, I'll just read it. It might be hard to read.
The sun is on her.
Oh,
No, without rain. Julian and I sat at a bar and talked The bar was made of red granite. The chaos of my life came to a stop. We were together in my spaceship, invisible to the outside world. That sums up the connection to the Julian character.
Yeah.
So that's like nothing like getting apart. It's like, I mean, I couldn't describe it better than this moment.
Yeah.
Should I read it again? Okay. Julian and I sat at a bar and talked. The bar was made of red granite. The chaos of my life came to a stop. We were together in my spaceship, invisible to the outside world. So he came into my isolation. Then the chaos came to a stop. And I kind of find the red marble very symbolic too. I mean, it was red marble. I never make anything up. It was red marble.
I mean, what would that look like?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I mean, the passion and then what you felt. And like I said, like, we all have our, I don't know, expectations.
I mean, sorry, red marble, like stone is solid and red is the color of earth.
It's grounding.
Grounding, yeah, exactly. So that's why for me the red marble is symbolic, not because it's passion, because actually that's exactly not what's part of this.
but like, I mean, passion doesn't have to be intimate. You're crying, so.
Yeah, no,
very
sure.
truly-
Yeah, no, I just wanted to sort of overstate it.
Good.
No, that's.
So it's just, you know, like, where do we fit in with people? We have our own expectations of, does this person, are we going to fit into their life or not? Do they like us? Do they not like us? I mean, that's one thing that AI is not going to take away, is that we are feeling human beings, expressive and emotions, overwhelming sensation of our beings, you know? So I think it's really good because we all must feel that on a daily basis. I don't know, I do.
I'm just having a thought, like, you know, I love that you're talking about how you felt so much when you were at that age, like feeling sort of like a feather and, you know, kind of where is life going to take me? And that, I mean, that's what I feel when I start reading your book, right? And I mean, even in this little passage that you just read, but in the ones before that, and like, you know, there's a table, there's a chair, and it's, you know, against this wall, and all those little things, like, it's just occurring to me now that each sentence is a choice, and that sounds obvious, but each sentence was like a big choice. Like, if I'm feeling like when you wrote that this stuff, you know, so long ago, you were like, I'm gonna, you know, you're like a feather, and you're like, what is life gonna bring me, and what am I doing? But then you're like, there's a chair, there's a, you know, the bed, and blah, blah, blah. And it's like making a mark. It's like, you know, if you're a painter, you're like, I'm gonna make this mark, you know, and I'm gonna connect with this. And you could have written anything, right? You could have written 1,000 different things, but you chose these little things to write, and sometimes they're huge things, right? But they're so chosen, and then to go through the process of curating, like you were saying also, Victoria, that Esther writes the way she talks, and you so write the way you talk, but you also, this was like such curation, but each sentence was such curation also. But then going through the process of writing, like the choice, like choosing and choosing and choosing each sentence over and over. But how beautiful. It's like being in a meditation, right? And this is the first, I mean, I've been through this with you many times, this material. And for the first time, it's really occurring to me that, like, when you were writing, when you were 18, and you wrote a sentence, and you know, like, it was like a meditation. And you might have felt so isolated and all of these things are ungrounded or whatever. But each sentence actually was your connections, like your little meditation, your little connection with yourself and your world. And I know you know that, but it's just so beautiful. I just wanted to kind of...
Yeah, it occurs to me more now that we're talking.
Yeah.
That it's kind of like that.
Yeah, like however isolated or ungrounded you felt, like this is it.
Yeah.
This was the grounding, and it's like what you're talking about too. Because like you're so present, right?
Like what's wise?
Is also very wise.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Even at that age, you kind of really know this person understands philosophy and life, and you want to have. I want to take you out to dinner as well, like that night.
Oh.
I was just thinking about things and notices things and everything. Poetic, it's very short but very precise and it says a lot with a little.
Right.
No, I was just saying really about his literature really take us, place us in the story, take us along for the ride, which I thought was pretty cool.
And it's inspiring to have something that feels like it maybe is simple, like there is the room is small, there's a single bed, but having that be the evidence of your life in print is also really powerful and inspiring for anyone to write the smallest bits of their life and how that can feel.
Yeah.
This is the evidence that I've lived.
Yeah.
No matter how big or small the experience was.
Yeah. That's also, we talked about it too, like that's part of what I love in life, like these just simple things we talked about, like when there are like exhibitions and you see like journals or receipts or like train tickets, like you also love that type of stuff, but I just love, I mean it's kind of in the same area of what you are talking about, like the chair, like the absolute basis of simplest proof of that there was life. I was actually also considering expanding it into that, like maybe drawings or receipts or stuff like that, and then photographing them and making a book of that, like just a proof of a life lived,
I haven't read the book, but I haven't read the book, but I sort of get the feeling you sort of take the mundane.
Yeah.
You sort of realize there's nothing mundane about it.
Yeah, well, I mean, it is, and that's what's most beautiful.
Yeah. She
It's
acknowledges
the awareness of living in the moment is enormous.
Yeah.
It's enormous. How many of us walk through the day?
Yeah.
How did I get here? I drive the same way every day. I try not to drive the same way. I think it's enormous you're sharing. I mean, it's
Thank you.
so enormous. I mean, again, it just really put me in a place to, wow, there's so much appreciation for what we are able to experience and to hold dear. That's what you're doing, holding it dear. Thank you for sharing it.
Do you want to read a little more
Yeah.
for the people that haven't read the book yet?
You said something, but
You'll come.
Yeah. Okay, so this is just before the little passage where, it's page 32. And it's just before the passage I read. So here, basically, I'm just back from New York, pretty much. So it's Amsterdam, Leidseplein, Hotel Centraal. November 19. I sit on my bed. Soft light enters through the windows of the courtyard. The door to the bathroom is open. My case is on the floor by the window. We film my escape. I ran through a dark, overgrown garden, climbed over a wall, and ran through another dark garden. I felt the cold, wet brick wall with my hands. I bumped my knees as I climbed. I come to life outside in the cold, in the wet gardens with the dark sky and the faint light shining through the windows of the houses. I disappear in rooms with people. So that was that one. And actually this is where you actually really feel that she, me. You know, like I'm here, by the way, now, which is like, I don't feel I disappear now. So, I mean, that's kind of like what this maybe did to me, that I connected to something in myself and in the world that I could share with the world. Whereas at that time, like the world was like, you know, fuck all of this. Like, I want to go back. I don't know where, but yeah.
Yeah.
That was how I really felt. I didn't say it. I didn't think it, but I know I felt it. Sorry for my bad language. Shall I just continue?
Yes.
Okay. So now it's 1985. And this is after I did that movie. It had come out. And it's page 40. And it's June 15. It's Laren, that's the place where I grew up. I wonder about reality. When, as a child, I would look up at the starry sky, I would get scared. Because it would remind me of the concept of infinity. Because that phenomenon is not present in everyday life. It would feel like a shortcut in my brain. Reality would stop making sense. Hey, I wear that shirt. Being in an unfamiliar environment, far away from home, could result in similar experiences. When we were in Switzerland and I saw mountains for the first time, I thought that maybe we are actually minuscule, like ants, or even invisible to a world that is much larger than ours. A world so large that we cannot see it. And sometimes when I would be in the car with Papa and I would look up at the sky, which I thought looked like a dome, I thought I saw the outside of the dome of another world. I'm wondering if our reality is really just a story. So that was that one. Shall I just continue?
Sure. One thing is, like you write about dream, like your dream, and then you have these passages that are like in italics, and I'm not sure if they're dreams, but I was just told recently that our waking life, you can see our waking life as a dream, and you can see our dreaming life not reality, but something else. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
Like,
You-
don't
you
take
said a
reality so
similar thing.
seriously. And then you wrote that, and I was like, there it is again.
Yeah. I agree. Myself. And with that
Don't
thought.
take reality so seriously.
Yeah, I mean, this is like, yeah, it might be, how do you say, people might think I'm crazy, but I kind of do think that, you know, what I wrote here and that we kind of create reality. And it's a dream, yeah. Shall I continue? Or? Okay, so same year, Los Angeles, Camrose Drive, September. I come to life outside at night. I already said that. That's what we say now, but anyway. I feel the warm air and look at the blue night sky, the stars, the faint street light, the Spanish houses with turrets and verandas, surrounded by an endless variety of flowers, the silhouettes of the trees, palm trees, cypresses, orange trees, all in the dim evening light. I breathe in the smells of jasmine, eucalyptus, and so many other scents, plants and trees and shrubs, fragrances that are at home in the evening on the street. 1986. I was a spy in a film noir. I drove back and forth a lot to the mountains. And then this is one of those italic passages. And what they mean is, does anybody else need to refill their meter? I'll just wait. Should I wait or?
You don't need to wait.
Yeah. Okay, so the italic is, yeah, they're like memories. They're like, I know that's how I felt. These are, they're experiences that I had but didn't write down, and they were like at the basis of my life.
Okay.
So this is one. We drive past towns with people trapped in lives. We have each other. Together we are safe and free. That's Julian again.
Are the names of the people made up, or are they really?
Made up, all of them, except for my own. What a surprise. Yeah.
How did you keep track of making up people?
Huh?
How did you keep track of the fake names and what they did?
Yeah, well, of course, all of them are very. Hey, Suzanne!
Oh, I've been here.
I haven't seen you. So good to see you. Thank you for coming.
Oh, yeah.
The names. Oh, yeah. Well, of course, they're all very important people. You know, like many people that are also important are not in there, but people that. So anyway, I don't want to say blah blah. Yeah, and the funny thing is, like, they sort of came to me, the names. Like, maybe similar to when you name your child, I'm not sure. That's how naming my child went also. The funny thing is, like, that I named my sister and Case, my husband, I gave them the same name without even realizing it. Because one is like Julien. It was actually, I thought of this French pronunciation of the word, the name Julien. And the other one is Julia, but it's written like the Italian way. The same name. I didn't realize that they're the same. Which to me is fascinating.
Yeah, it is fascinating.
And that's the same thing. Again, it's not about me. It's just about this person that I get to, sort of observe. Like I do Feldenkrais, and when I have that treatment, it makes me feel too that like I'm not me. And you're just an observer to all of your experiences. So ego is not in there at all for me. And even when there is an ego, it's like, oh, there's an ego, but that's not mine.
Yeah.
I like to keep this position of.
Yeah. So fascinating.
Okay, so now it's 1987, and I think we skip the year forward. Los Angeles, July. Fog lays over the city. It mixes with exhaust and turns into smog. In Holland, fog means something fresh and pure. Sometimes I try to detect the smell of fresh fish in it. Oh, by the way, it's 73. Page 73. So anyway, so the fog, right? And in Holland it's fresh and pure. Sometimes I try to detect the smell of fresh fish in it. I try to make a phone call and slam the receiver against my face. The chair gets stuck on the rug and falls on my foot. I'm dreaming of secret affairs. Uh-oh. I'll just continue, right? I mean, I can stop, like...
No.
I can, because it might take too long. Okay, now it's 1988. Laren, so I'm back in my hometown. January 8, 2:50 p.m. Sorry, page 80. I live in a perfect and agonizing divide. It is as if a sharp blade splits me. I don't understand this split. We are governed by so many layers of being. So little of what we are seems to be conscious. What I do now is...
I do know.
I do know, dank je. What I do know, I got distracted, is that there is a part of me that does not move, that is rock solid, and that there is another part that attacks that choice. That other part longs for fun and attention, distraction, satisfaction, and confirmation. It is susceptible to the outside influences, and goes wherever the wind blows. This part of me also longs so deeply for love and affection and intimacy. I wish I could unite the forces.
That's a beautiful. That's a beautiful. Oh,
Thank you. Shall I just continue? Is everybody not getting impatient?
No?
Really? Okay, there's not that
Are
much
you?
left. No, I'm not. I'm getting nervous. Like, oh my goodness, this might be boring.
No.
Okay, I think we're still in the same year. Yeah, and only now it's November, and I'm back in LA, Los Angeles. Okay, November. I am getting dressed in a room with a... I'm going to read this other part too, but only when Janine's back. Anyway, I'm getting dressed in a room with a wooden floor. I'm near two windows. They are... What's that? 94. Sorry. I'm getting dressed in a room with a wooden floor. I'm near two windows. They are to my right. There's also a window in front of me, a few steps away. That window has a view of water, the ocean. The water reaches to the house. At the side windows you can see into the house next door. The houses are built close together. It is late afternoon. The girl who lives in the house next door, in the room I'm looking into, gave me a radio. She stands at the window and tries to tell me something. Several girls live in the house, sorority girls, well cared for, from proper families. There's water between us. I want to be alone. I continue what I was doing. A little while later I look again. Now the water is wild. The sky is dark gray, almost black. There's also bright light, and there are faint shades in the dark blue clouds. The house next door is gone. The water rose from the earth and devoured the house. There's water everywhere. It won't be long before the same will happen to my house. I wonder where Bo is. I run into the street in my socks to look for him. I see two dogs. They came running from a field at the edge of a forest across the street. I run towards the field and see Bo. He is sniffing the ground. I'm relieved and pick him up. I walk back to the house that is now sinking and is about to also be devoured by water. Bo is safe in my arms. The street has disappeared into the sea. There's a knock on the door. I am dreaming.
Quite profound.
Yeah. Continue? Okay. So I wasn't going to read this, but I'm going to read this for Janine. Santa Monica, December. I'm house sitting. I don't know why this makes me cry. There's a dark gray tile floor and Eames furniture throughout the house. The gray is almost black. A large round window looks out on the backyard with a converted garage that's filled with an extensive collection of rare and exotic butterflies. Mabel, Janine, you're Mabel, there. It's page 95. The owner of the house works on a film in Chicago. I have a roof over my head for a while. I'm at the round table by the window. The window has thick glass with black wire running through. I open a book and get distracted by a thought. How could it have happened? We lived in our cocoon. It seemed to just happen. No force could keep me away from Alex. It is no use to be angry with myself. It happened and I can't change it. And then there's in tiny letters, cocoon, a silky case spun for protection, something that envelops or surrounds, especially in a protective or comforting way. Now it's page 103, and it is it's 1989, so we're already in the next year. I think I skipped saying what year. Anyway, Mirabelle au Baronnies, France, July 17, 1989. It's a full moon. The window is open. The sky is clear and dark blue. I spent the afternoon talking to Julia in the old loft where we sleep, and then with Mama, laying next to her chair in the dry grass under the fruit trees, with just past my feet the grapevines that grow onto the stakes in the hard, rocky earth. Mama lays there reading for hours. She said I should write down my dreams. Okay, and now basically we're at the end. So this is, I spent the summer in Holland, and I'm on my way back to Los Angeles. This is in another font. No, it's the same font, but it's tiny letters. And that means that it's a memory. I actually forgot the logic of my choices, but it's that this is like different layers of consciousness or whatever. Okay, I'm in bed with Mama. I only see the burning tip of her cigarette in the dark. I don't want to go to school. I dream of another world, a world beyond the stars. I'm afraid in this world of the rules that don't make sense, of death, of life, of not being able to do it all. And the next one is, I have a guide. Her name is Esther. It is me. When I ask her something, she answers clearly. I see myself from behind. I'm wearing a red dress. I walk through the desert. September 10, on the plane. Everyone came to Mama to say goodbye. I felt rich. I cried when I said goodbye to Papa this morning, when I saw him in his sweater and clouds in his driveway, surrounded by his garden and flowers, his self-created paradise. And I cried when I said goodbye to Mama at the airport, when we embraced one last time, and for a moment I was again a child in her arms. And then later, somewhere above the Atlantic Ocean, the other day I realized I feel so much pressure from the outside world that I force myself to follow a path that the world understands. But I don't want to live that way. That way my life turns into a vacuous form. It is paramount to allow the process to unfold, like you allow a seed to grow after you have planted it. When I do that, I can discover what will emerge from the depths of my being. Where am I? Who are you? I don't know you. Do you exist?
Any more questions for Esther?
Yes, I do. You had a lot of existential questions when you were younger. And what is your perspective now when you read all your diaries to put it in this book?
I think I'm still with her. I still feel the same way. Well, actually, now, I mean, it's like I totally I understand. Like, I mean, what a surprise, right? But I don't know. It's kind of nice to maybe after all those years to actually really hear myself and to acknowledge myself and to not like and just even being here like you know, I like often it says like, you know, I try to fit in. You know, I think the world wants something from me and I have to be different and I don't know how to do all of that, blah, blah, blah. So all these years what I did is like, I always did what felt true to me and I worked on that really hard. And through that, I found a connection to the world outside me. Does that make sense? To anyone? Anyone? Through what really felt, you know, like, oh, I've written about all these things that felt true to me. And I felt like I should be ashamed of all of it. And I always kept it for myself. And in a way, I guess, you know, like, because I thought, oh, I have to be a novel writer, or I have to be, you know, like a banker, or you know, a philosopher, or a teacher, you know, something. And I couldn't fit into all these things. So now I found a way to connect, yeah.
Maybe you just feel more connected to yourself, self-realization.
Or acceptance?
Yeah.
Acceptance.
Yeah, I think it's maybe getting over shame or something.
Why would you be ashamed?
Well, because I felt everybody knows what they're doing and I don't.
Oh.
Now it's turning into like my therapy session.
Or maybe ours. Relevant.
Well, that would be
I think it's
great.
ours.
Okay.
I think it's yours.
Much better.
I think it's all relevant because we're all here trying to exist one way or another. Nobody has, I don't think anybody here's got a perfect solution.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think being true to yourself is really what it, you know,
Yeah.
got, right?
Yeah, but isn't that strange? I mean, come on, right? Like, you know, like the whole...
Don't you feel a celebration sort of with that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but I mean, I think I'm getting over it, you know, like my whole hang up, this and that, because I didn't go to school, I don't have a degree, and you know, like I didn't achieve anything, you know,
Who
like...
cares?
I know, but I did, like that followed, I was ashamed of it,
Yeah.
so ashamed.
Yeah.
And you know, the whole world is about achievement of degrees, like credits, you know, like, oh, I did this, you know.
But deep down, like I know that's what society tells us, and definitely in that era, but like today, we can all say, well, I don't know about the young people, but it really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It really doesn't.
It just may not be part of your journey. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that for sure, yeah. But of course that was something I felt ashamed of. And now I also understand that, you know, like a lot of, that it's, I think I just mostly started to understand my worst, you know, critic or like that I had this person in me that was constantly just, and like, who is that? Like, you know, like making me feel bad that I didn't have a degree, or that I'm not a doctor, or that I'm not a successful artist or actor, or successful at something. Yeah.
You've done a lot more than those folks, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, and of course when you truly ask me, I'm like, that doesn't matter at all. Like, you know, like, so, yeah.
You raised 2 successful children
Yeah.
who are now on careers of their own.
Yeah.
So be very proud of that.
Yeah.
That's an achievement.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's yeah, like good enough. Like,
Well, I think
like Rafael is like struggling, you know, with all. Yeah, I mean, aren't we all struggling?
We're all
Simon's struggling.
Yeah,
too, like-
that's I haven't even
Everybody
done that.
has she.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. But I
Yeah.
guess.
I can totally relate. We've done art together, our classes, and yes, I'm a creative, I can do things, but I've always felt the same thing. Because, you know, I'm surrounded by the art center, and it's always about, people would make comments, it's about, oh, well, you don't have the degree, you don't have this, you don't have that. But there's so many, and for years, if you look back, there's so many artists, composers who are self-taught, and they're brilliant. So why do we, some of us, why are we so affected by whatever that cloud is of what someone says or thinks? But I've felt so many times, and people are like, well, why don't you put your art out there? And that's why.
Yeah.
Even though I know I'm probably got more than some, but yeah, I totally relate. That's what I say. I think, for me, her book just totally opened me up.
Wow.
It's totally opened me up, and you know that.
Yeah, and you know, and that's, I guess, to answer more your question, what it does to me is like, oh, we're all, like, many of us are the same. Like, you know, probably, I wonder about you, Bill, because you just...
What do you wonder about me?
You want to know?
You know, when I would say, like, oh, you don't feel insecure, because you're very, like, you know, you have your goals and you execute them, huh?
I'm a good actor.
Really? Even you, Bill? Like, I would have sworn that you have no insecurity.
Oh, I absolutely do. I think everybody does.
Wow.
I think that's human nature. I mean, that makes us human.
You know, I would have said, like, if you wouldn't have been here, I would have said, well, this one friend of Kay's, he doesn't struggle with these things, and that would be you.
No, that's,
Okay.
no,
Well, then,
I just put on a good
if you
performance.
do, huh?
I just put on a good performance.
Wow.
My biggest challenge is I'm constantly moving the goalposts. We all have goals in life,
Yeah.
and my struggle, I mean, I'm 73 years old now and have had a very successful career, but all during my career I always felt I wasn't achieving what I wanted, and then finally at some point I realized, you know what, as I would achieve whatever the goal was, I'd move the goalposts. So I'd feel badly about not achieving it because I just kept pushing it farther and farther, either bigger or better or something. And I don't know, I still probably haven't solved that, but that was something I did my entire life. So I always felt unfulfilled that I never achieved what I thought I wanted to achieve, even though I did many, many things through the years.
So exactly this, you're like my huge role model, or not role model, but like, okay, he doesn't have that, but so.
Yeah, for people who don't know me, I'm Bill Bennett, and I'm her husband's good friend. I'm also a cinematographer.
Yeah, they're basically partners.
In crime, yes.
Yeah, we do a lot of stuff together.
Yes, we do.
I'll just say one last thing relative to not what Bill says, but like I've written a lot too, and I'm going to release my book now because I'm inspired by Esther, and it's different. It's totally different, but I felt like I didn't want to take up space. Like my voice wasn't relevant. Who cares? And I think as artists and visual and people who are creative, you go to New York and you're like, there's so much going on, and like I should be there. I don't have anything to say that's really worth taking up space. I have this art space here that I show everybody else, but I don't show myself because I don't want to take up space. What I have to say is not important enough. And I think that's just lack of a better word, just bullocks. Like,
Yeah, it is
you know,
bullocks. Yeah.
it's total bullocks. It's like, we all have a right to be here, we all have a right to take up a little bit of space and share our journey, especially now, I think. So I think it's really beautiful, and on top of everything else.
I think community helps with that though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look
I
at
think
this.
in today, what I'm seeing more and more is people become more and more isolated. There's
Yeah.
not this sense of community.
Yeah.
And I really feel that if you look at some of our, friends who we went to class with, they belong to different communities who help them to overcome those
Yeah.
feelings or, and
Yeah.
to really continue. So I think communities is huge.
Yeah, and it's like,
And we talked earlier, it's process. You have to get through process. It's a journey. There is no end. I mean, well, there is ultimately, but it's a journey. We should look at it that way. Is so much more.
but that's exactly what you are creating, community. I mean, look at us.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, you have an incredible support group here, Esther.
Yeah, I'm like blown away by everybody coming.
Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
for those
well.
that would like to acquire the book, Esther has a fresh printing, and she's offering it for $21 today. There's a QR code, and for those people that have the books, she's here to sign the books. And then, like I said, there's an after party at home.
Can I eat
Request.
Yeah.
Would you be willing to read one more small passage?
Oh, absolutely.
This is my first introduction to you. I was in New York City at basically the same time, and I was just in New York City last week.
Oh, wow.
Words are not really my first language. It's never felt that way. Anyways, there's a passage on page 96, 1989, January 2nd at 10:45. 96.
Page 96.
Has she-
Oh, yeah, but it's not New York, right? New York?
Please.
But that, and so which passage, like the whole thing?
It says 1989, January 2nd,
Okay.
10:45.
Okay. Oh, well, okay. Okay, 1989, January 2nd, 10:45, evening. It's cold. A stray ant walks across the table. Today I read that we are all roses. We are beautiful in every stage. A thought like that helps. Well, there we go. That's I guess that's what we were talking about, right? I'll continue the whole page.
If you want to, it's really that one section.
January 4th. I live alone now, but we can't part from each other. Julian's here too. January 7th. Oh, I'll just skip to 12. January 12th. I make lists, even of the things I need to do to relax. I want to be able to relax. I want to be relaxed when I work and when I don't work. I don't want a stressed life. I don't want to force myself. I want to go to the post office because I want to, not because I have to. I'm exhausted, 26 and exhausted. I want to live life without resisting it. I want to be there every moment of my life. I want to be able to accept and embrace the here and now. I want life to be my friend. Now I'm going to take a shower because I have to go to the post office and print resumes, and I have to go to an audition.
Will you read just a little bit in Dutch?
Yeah.
And I don't know what passage. Any passage.
You wrote it originally in Dutch?
Yeah.
Now, did you do the translation, or did someone else?
I did the initial translation, and then Pam checked, and someone else checked, and then my Dutch friend, who her father is an American, she also checked, because she knows both languages really well.
Do you feel that the English version carries the essence of what you originally wrote,
Yes.
or is it lacking?
No, it's not
It's
lacking.
not lacking, okay.
No. No, I don't feel anywhere that it's lacking.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Just anything that you want to read. That
Oh my.
I just want to hear your voice in Dutch.
Something in Laren.
In Laren? Oké. Ja, nee, ik moet even nadenken wat in Laren is. So we, 3 Dutch-speaking people. Yeah, I think all the Laren pieces are very short. But that's, and then also I could just open it.
Ja.
I'll just do that.
We won't
What?
know yet.
If you find one, als je er een vindt, laat me weten. Oké, 8 augustus. Er zijn momenten dat ik niet kan praten. Ik sta geregeld als verdwaald tegenover iemand. Dan moet ik van heel ver komen en kan ik maar met moeite een woord uitbrengen. Mijn gedachten zweven om me heen als een wolk. Ze vormen een afstand tussen mij en de wereld. Alles is ver weg en niks dichtbij. Toch voel ik alsof er iets is. Iets dat heel ver weg is. Een gevoel met iets of met iemand. Ik heb het vooral als het donker is. Zou het mijn geest zijn? Is mijn geest van mijn lichaam afgesplitst?
How many people can speak Dutch? Doesn't matter.
Ja, oh ja, jij bent er ook.
No, I mean, that's such an achievement. It's a very tough language. I know it's your native tongue, but
Yeah.
very impressive.
Yeah, she's bilingual. Her dad's from Los Angeles. Her mom from
Dutch.
Oh.
In like 30 years. Oh wow.
Huh?
He
Oh, yeah, he never
Dutch.
learned Dutch.
It's
Yeah.
like it's an ugly, difficult language.
Lived in Amsterdam.
Are you all taking cash, Rowson?
Esther, yeah.
Yeah,
Esther.
yeah.
Okay. So let's take a